Hello, welcome to another episode of Yummy Data Science. I'm going to be reading one of my Medium articles to you. It's about understanding distributed computing and features my imaginary friend, Mr. Pound. I'm having coffee and a slice of pound cake one afternoon with my imaginary friend, Mr. Pound, in his charming and entirely fictitious bakery, Pound Cakes and More. Business has been great, my friend tells me, and he's thinking of expanding. A note about my friend, Mr. Pound. In addition to being an astute businessman and an excellent confectioner, he's really into data science, data and technology. In his spare time, he analyzes data that he collects meticulously. I really like talking to him because, hey, who can turn down an offer of free pound cake with a side of cool techie talk? Back to expanding pound cakes and more. Mr. Pound has one small oven and a mixer, and both are optimized to make four cakes at the same time. He believes that he can expand in two ways. Option one, go big, is to purchase an XXL oven and mixer that will make 12 cakes concurrently. Option two, distributed baking, is to purchase three additional pairs of small ovens and mixers. With both options, he'll be able to make 12 additional cakes at the same time, but each option has its advantages and disadvantages. With Go Big, Mr. Pound is worried about cake quality since he's not sure about the evenness of the temperature in the XXL oven. Maybe the cakes in the corners will burn and the ones in the center will be underdone. He frets. With distributed baking, he'll need to carefully set baking times with four different ovens. He might, he muses, be able to hire his nephew to help. Suddenly, Mr. Pound's face lights up. I think I've figured out what distributed computing is, he declares. Mr. Pound continues excitedly. It's like me trying to clean the two seating areas in my bakery. Instead of just me, I would hire two people and each one would clean one room. Then I would supervise the results. The supervision would be extra effort, but the cleaning would get done in about half the time. As I help myself to another melt in your mouth slice of pound cake, I interject. Mr. Pound, have you considered the task of sorting numbers? How might you sort three random numbers, and then 100 numbers, and finally 1,000 numbers? Well used to my leading questions, Mr. Pound responds affably. With three numbers, it's easy. I would simply do them in my head. All in memory processing and no distribution required, he says with a smile. With 100 numbers, I would grab a pencil and a piece of paper and I would peruse my numbers to find the lowest, write it down, go through the remaining 99 numbers to find the next higher number, repeating this process until I had a new, perfectly ordered list of 100 numbers. Isn't this similar to building a bigger computer and utilizing in memory processing as well as temporary writing to disk? Mr. Pound says with a chuckle. With 1,000 numbers. I don't think I want to do this by myself, Mr. Pound says. He pauses, thinks for a bit, and resumes. I would hire 10 helpers and give them 100 numbers each. They would order their own 100 numbers and hand in their work. So now I have 10 sheets with 100 sorted numbers. Mr. Pound pauses again and looks thoughtful. He continues. I look at the first row of the 10 lists and write down the minimum number. I then look at the same row and some additional rows to find the next highest number. Tedious but doable, he declares. Having finished my second scrumptious slice, I chime in. Mr. Pound, this is why distributed computing began. As data grew, so did computers. But data grew faster. So Doug Cutting and his brilliant friends created a system of connecting computers to each other and dividing work across these connecting computers. Now, work was distributed among these computers. They're called executors, but there was also a master computer that collected intermediate results, did additional work, and then presented the complete task to the end user. Doug Cutting christened this new system Hadoop after his young son's toy elephant, I say, smiling. This system proved itself quickly. To sort 1 terabyte of data, Hadoop took 3.5 minutes, whereas the closest non distributed system took 3.5 days. I say excitedly. Because Mr. Pound looks confused, I add 1 terabyte of data is close to 1,000,000,000,000,000,000 bytes, and that's 12 zeros. But the problem was that this early version of Hadoop was difficult to use by those not trained in computer science. Many new tools and languages popped up, all named for various animals. There was hive, pig, impala, even zookeeper, I say, laughing. So the old code worked on the new distributed system, Mr. Pound asks. No, I reply. Code had to be adapted. Many programming paradigms went out the window. Mr. Pound jumps in. So if I wrote a loop, that would not distribute well because it works on one row at a time, right? And table indexing would not translate well because it assumes that the entire table is in one place. Yes, that's right, I say, adding. But Hadoop evolved to become easier to use, and a new system called Spark was created. Spark integrates well with Hadoop, plays nicely with different types of hardware, and is generally easy to use. It has become dominant today, and there are tools like PySpark that work much better with distributed data than, say, Pandas. Mr. Pound interjects. So I cannot use Pandas iloc construct? Knowing that Mr. Pound loves pandas for analyzing his data, I assure him. But PySpark is easy. Hey, you can even use generative AI to help convert your pandas code to PySpark. I continue. Distributed computing made advances in generative AI possible. Well, that and the transformer models, which are designed to iterate to a closer understanding of language on a massively parallel scale. Mr. Pound smiles and gets up. I think I've made up my mind. I'm going to go with distributed baking, he says. I get up, too, knowing that my friend wants to go home, cook dinner, and await his wife, who's expecting their first child. We say our goodbyes, and as I leave, Mr. Pound calls out, laughing, Hey, what do you think the chances are of us figuring how to grow a baby in 1 month with 9 people? Some things, I thought, are best left undistributed.